evening, everyone, and welcome to our final Wednesday webinar with FYMMO. And this week is a really special week because we've got some old friends here with us on the panel this evening. So my name's Louisa. I'm with the FYMMO program, as you probably already know, and I'm joined this evening with my co-host Rachel, our lovely education officer. And yeah, so we're just going to have a lovely, loosely informal chat with all of our grads this evening. And if you have any questions or anything, you can pop it into the chat box there. And I think without further ado, I'll pass you over to our grads. Grace, do you want to kick us off?
Hi, I'm Grace. I graduated from art in 2018 and I'm currently working for Airbnb support line and an entrepreneur designer.
Hi, I'm Helen. I graduated EMCS in 2017 and now I'm in Berlin teaching English, and obviously I have a podcast as well.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I graduated 3D design, model making and digital art in 2018, and I am currently a workshop manager for an architectural firm in Copenhagen.
And hello, I'm Blue Sky. I also did model making, also graduated 2018, also in Copenhagen, but I work at a different architectural company called 3XN.
Hello, my name is Luke. I graduated photography in 2018. I'm currently working as a freelance photographer and videographer, but also have a day job working as a clinical photographer in the Mater Hospital.
Hi, I'm Sam. I graduated last year from applied psychology and I'm now doing a master's in applied psychology and fashion at London College of Fashion.
Hi everyone, I'm Neve. I graduated in 2018 from Business and Arts Management. I'm currently working for the NGO Ahead.
Perfect, and thank you all so much for joining us this evening. I'm so excited for this chat. And yeah, I suppose we'll just kick off with a few questions if that's okay. So obviously all of our students at the moment, they're heads in the books with deadlines and they're working on final projects and they'll be finished up their courses soon and into kind of real life. So just in terms of since college, has your journey to your current position been different how you thought it would be? Has it been like pinpoint exactly how you thought it would be, but how has it differed or been the same? Neve, do you want to start us off?
Yes, I will. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question because I think when you kind of enter into college, like I know I did business and arts management, so I very much wanted to work in the arts, whether that was in music or in theatre. And throughout my time at IDT, I got quite involved with societies, specifically QSA, and also just kind of different kind of activism that was kind of, at the time, marriage equality was happening and so was repeal. So I think through that, I got very involved with the student union. And I'm sure we'll kind of talk about that later on. But I ended up running the student union. I was LGBT rights officer for a year, and then I was also welfare and equality. So from that, I know when I was leaving welfare, there was kind of two different jobs that had come up, one in the theatre festival and then one in the NGO Ahead that I'm currently working in. And I luckily got both jobs, and I was like, oh wow, which one will I go for? The theatre festival was only 6 months though. I kind of like said to myself, like, do I want a kind of permanent job or do I want something for 6 months? But it wasn't just that. I was like, actually, I am particularly interested in this. It is something that I'm passionate about, and I think I only got that through different kind of activism or different campaigns that I was involved with. So I went for it. 2 years later, and I'm still here. I absolutely love it. But I think what's interesting about it is that I've put a lot of the skills and knowledge that I've taken from either arts management or even from the different kind of campaigns and brought it into it. So I do a lot of event management, and that was a big part of my course. But I never thought that I would be particularly doing events. Even like I studied HR and accounting within that, and I'm using that in it as well. And I kind of, within Ahead itself, we kind of work with a lot of different companies, like finance companies, pharmaceutical companies, a lot of other companies with money, to be perfectly honest with you. So we do work placement schemes for graduates with disabilities. But what I've kind of brought to it as well is like, why don't we look at more kind of arts-based? Because like I know from IADT, IADT had the highest number of dyslexic students in the country. And that has like that. You know, it's something to say there that like, well, actually a lot of students with disabilities go into the creative arts. I think it's important that those pathways are there. So we're currently doing some work with the animation company Cartoon Salute at the moment. Going to actually go, well, what kind of pathways can we create there for students with disabilities to get into those kind of industries? So it's really cool to kind of take what I've learned from IDT and that kind of networking aspect and bring it into that. We're also doing a webinar there in July, specifically looking at the intersectionality between disability and the LGBT community, because there's a huge intersection there again. And it's, if somebody's applying for a job, well, actually, there are certain barriers if you have a disability, but also certain barriers if you're part of the LGBT community. And it's seeing those barriers, but also empowering employers to kind of say, well, actually, yes, how can we make our workplace more inclusive? So I think there's loads of kind of transferable skills that I've taken from IADT, not just my course, but loads of different aspects, and brought them into my job. So I didn't think after my 4 years I'd be working in an NGO, but I am, and I think it's worked out quite well.
That's amazing. That sounds so fascinating. And would anyone else like to have a say on their journey since college? Yeah, of course, fire ahead.
So I applied to IADT because it was in Dublin, but it wasn't in Dublin City. So I was able to, move to Dublin, but it wouldn't be city central, so it'd be cheaper to live, I thought, when I was going into first year. Little did I know. And then, so I went into first year thinking, right, I'm going to do a 4-year degree in art. I need to get a 1-1 because I want to go on to do a 1-year master's in the UK to do wood restoration. That was going to cost about £30,000 just to get in the door, not even including like where to live, food, all that sort of stuff. So I was like, right, I need to get a 1-1 to get sponsorship, to get funding to do the course so that I can move some of that money to living costs. But what happened was I got all the way into halfway through 4th year, and it turned out that it wasn't a 1-year course, it was actually a 1-year undergrad. And then you went on to do a master's. So the course that I was just about to finish, the art course in IDT, didn't transfer to the master's program. I would have had to go and do an undergrad again, starting at 30,000 a year in this beautiful on-site campus in the UK that, is a dream college. But if you're going to do like 3 or 4 years in another college after one degree. So my entire plan for what I thought was going to be my career of living in this beautiful studio, fixing like frames and old wooden axes and all these amazing beautiful things I thought I was going to get to do, kind of was like, well, that's not going to happen unless you get into some serious debt, which I was fortunate to not have to not do going into my undergrad in IADT, because I got funded through Back to Education. So I thought, right, it's going to be 60 grand just to even get up to the master's level, which is, I can't even fathom £60,000, like, oh my god. So I wrote that off. I was like, okay, that's clearly not the career path for me. I do have all these big interests that I love and these things that I like to do. And I ended up talking to the then education officer who had also done the art course, and we kind of talked and sussed out what might happen, what might not happen. I ended up going into the student union for a year, and that gave me the space to sort of expand my horizons of what I thought my career would be, because going into first year up to halfway to 4th year, I really was on a one-way path to that little studio dungeon somewhere in like the Philippines or the Netherlands, or that sort of thing. So yeah, my plan changed right at the end, and I had a big freak out, and I think it came back in January, and I got my results, and I was like, oh my god, I'm not going to get a 1-1. What am I going to do? I have no hope. Everything's gonna be really awful. And then I went into the student union, and I loved it. And me and Neve were in the student union the same year. So whatever you think your plan is, don't stress too much, because it's going to change.
I think that's such an important message. Yeah, that whole, because I think we can all kind of relate to that. Oh God, what if this thing that I need doesn't happen, and suddenly you don't need it anymore because meant for you is on its way. But yeah, would anyone else like to touch on their kind of journey since college?
Yeah, I would also just say for people who have no concept of a journey, not to worry about it. I can't tell you how little an idea I had of where I was going ever at any time throughout college or even post-college. And I really have just spent the last few years just messing about, which has given me space in my life to see what I actually care about, what actually makes me happy and what I'm genuinely interested in. And then from there you can kind of be like, oh, maybe I could work that into a job. So just if you have no concept of a journey, don't worry. No one, I think a lot of people don't have any concept of a journey. So yeah. I hope.
I can speak. Just me. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Kind of following on from that path and kind of career pathing, COVID has been a thing. in case anybody forgot about it. Has COVID affected anyone's like plans of like their career path or anything like that?
Yeah, I can definitely speak to the COVID experience and working. Kind of also tying in with the previous question of like where you thought you might be after college. Obviously, both myself and Blue Sky have ended up in Copenhagen in Denmark, and that was basically a case of
Who was hiring? Where could we go?
yeah, what jobs were available and where we could find somewhere. And there were some positions opening for a architectural company here, 3XN, where Blue currently is. I also worked there for about a year and a half, and because the model shop couldn't work from home, we were even like continuing to work during like when most people were locked down. We were still going in every day, and it was just when it felt like it was all kind of coming up and up again in Denmark, I actually got let go from my job, which was a really scary moment because obviously a lot of jobs here aren't accessible to me because I'm not very good at Danish yet. And it was all just a little bit anxiety inducing because it was the whole world feels like they're not going to be hiring creative people right now, and I feel like I'm not hireable for a lot of the things that are available here. But thankfully, I've actually ended up in a position and in a job after a number of months. A job just kind of appeared that came available that is kind of a dream job. So now I'm actually managing a workshop here in another architectural company. And I think, I mean, the main thing that I told myself all throughout the process and looking for jobs and applying and not hearing back or getting rejections was that everyone is kind of in the same boat. COVID is happening to everyone at the same time. There may be a gap in your resume, there may be a period of time that you're not working, but as long as you're keeping yourself healthy and looking after your mental health and working on what you can work on and learn a new skill if you're capable, but even the pressure to like add those tools, that's only when it's I feel like a lot of people try to make it an opportunity to be like relearn something completely new. That's not totally necessary. Look after yourself, keep your options open, keep searching. Something will come up. There's always something somewhere. You just have to keep that positive attitude and keep your eyes open, and thankfully that's what worked out for me. And I know there's luck involved as well, but I think if you're not looking for the lucky opportunity, you're not gonna find it at the same time. So yeah, that was my COVID experience. Sorry, our cat is deciding to say hello.
Well, I love that sentiment of just like keep looking for that, and that like how something that could have been really negative turned into like a positive, and you've got like this dream job now where you're managing. That's great.
Yeah, and it's also in the career path idea. I never expected to be at this sort of doing this sort of job already this soon out of college, and that wasn't something I planned for. That wasn't something I searched for, but I'm in it now, and IADT helped me in that way because I was class rep, I was class rep chair, I always got involved, and that actually helped me be able to take on the role. So, yeah.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, so with that sentiment, which I totally agree, I think that's so important. Would anyone else like to speak on the COVID? I don't want to move on if anyone. No, we're all D. Perfect. So, yeah, just following on from that sentiment, which I totally agree with Rachel. I think it's so important to keep that going and to not maybe feed into some of the ideals that I think a lot of people have during COVID, which is, oh my God, I need to paint my house and I don't know, buy 7 dogs, but I'll walk them simultaneously every single day, every 5 minutes. Like, you're okay, you're surviving, you're fine. But yeah, on the topic of advice, what advice would you give your first year self?
I mean, I recently, yesterday, found I had studied photography, and I had this blog I used to have from when I was in like 6th year, which I updated regularly till maybe like 2nd or 3rd year, and then it's kind of faded out. But I'd forgotten about it, And then I was sitting in work and I was like, oh, does that still exist? So I went on and I have all these like, because I don't keep a diary and things, with all these like really like basically spilling my guts about all these things I'm working on and things I'm doing, but it documents my whole process from going like through the portfolio process into getting into college and all the rest. And like, obviously everyone when they're 18 is very like insecure or whatever, but like I couldn't get over how insecure and how much I was like putting out there. I was like, this is awful, I hate this, and all these like really over the top like descriptions of things. So like I feel like with first year, like I mean I went in and I went straight from school and I had no kind of formal training, where there was a lot of people, especially with the art courses, who maybe have done a PLC or a portfolio course the year before, or maybe have been working in that field kind of freelance and then decide they want to study it academically and stuff. So you're kind of not all at the same level. And I think in first year, I felt very much like I was playing catch up all the time. And we'd go to like lectures and stuff and they'd be all like, when you're submitting for this and when you're doing this press thing and when you're doing this thing. And I'm like, I've done none of these things, and you're kind of just constantly like, I'm going to play catch up forever. But then I think as time goes on, you kind of learn to sort of stay in your own lane, and we get to fourth year and everyone sort of is on that kind of level playing field then. And then I think the thing with anyone going into first year, I'd say, is just kind of stay in your own lane and stick to what you believe in and what you want to do, and like take the constructive criticism, whatever, but don't compare yourself necessarily to someone who's had a lot more experience outside college prior to that you've had, or that's someone that's maybe a bit older than you or something, because I think everyone's coming at it from different angles. And I think first year specifically for most courses is when you're kind of not all quite kind of in sync in terms of your experience. And I think that is something that as you get, like by the time you get to fourth year, everyone has their own like distinct style or way they do things, and I think that they're much more confident in the work they're making. So I think if I was to go back, I'd be like, chill out. That's what I do.
Yeah, would anyone else, if you could speak to your first year self right now, what would you tell them?
I'm not necessarily to my first year self, but relevant to first year. Before, like in secondary school, I was super shy, hated talking to anyone. And then in first year, kind of made this pact with myself that I was gonna get out there and have this whole college experience. And that meant I signed up for loads of societies. I didn't end up going to all of them, but I think it's really, really good to try and get involved in other things and try and network with other people, not in a networky way, but like just meet people, make friends. I know most of the other people who are panelists today, and like none of you are on my course. So I think that's really a really important thing and something that first years should keep in mind. Like, I know right now you're not on campus, but even next year, when you have the chance to mix with other people, like go and do it. These people are gonna be important to you later on. So.
And it's never too late to like join in on that either. Sorry, Nick. Neve, do you want to go on ahead?
Sorry, you froze on me there.
Sorry.
No, you're absolutely fine. Sorry, yeah, just to pick up on the point that these guys said there. So when I actually came into first year, I was 25 when I had gone back to college. So I'd done a couple of PLC courses. I'd been working a little bit. So I was a mature student, but I wasn't like mature as in like over 40, that I'd had a whole career behind me. So I think when I went in first year, I was a bit like, oh, I'm too old to be socializing. I'm too old to join societies. And my first year I didn't join anything. I wasn't involved in the student union. I wasn't involved in any kind of social aspect of it. And it wasn't until my second year that I kind of pushed myself to do that. And even though I kind of felt like I was too old, actually when I pushed myself to do it, I made some of the best friends I've ever made in my life. And it has changed the way my career is today. So I would just encourage anyone, if you're not kind of 18, 19 going in, don't feel like you're too old, regardless of what age you are or what experience you have behind you. Like people are, I think IADT is just such a friendly place, but also you can bring so much to it as well. So I just want people to feel like they can, I know a lot of people who I've spoken to in fourth year and they didn't get involved in anything. And they kind of went, I should have, and it's never too late, even if you're in third year or fourth year. But I think just regardless of age, I think just to encourage people to get involved in more than just the academic side.
Yeah, Grace, you want to fire ahead?
And I completely agree with Neve that like I was one of those people that waited till fourth year like I signed up for everything in sign up week in first year and second year and third year and fourth year, and I had the best of intentions, but when it came to actually going to any of those things and actually like meeting new people, my anxiety would just completely like be like, no, you don't need to go this week, you can go next week. And it just ended up that I never went. And then when I got into the student union, that was the first time that I was forced into these situations. So I saw my first drag show when I was in the student union, and I got to see how the Halloween ball was, you know, I'd never been to that either. So there's all these events and people that I got to meet, which, you know, I could have met like 3, 2, 4, 5 years earlier, you know, depending, that I totally missed out on because like I kept putting off and saying that I totally would, and then I never did. So go to one, like challenge yourself to go to one.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like, are there any values that you guys have learned from college that you've kind of taken on and brought into like your current lives as you are now?
Yeah, I think like for me, I can say that like obviously this is a little bit course specific maybe, but also probably not. Like definitely with EMCS, like the nature of the course was so broad, and like the focus on critical theory and like developing like critical thinking skills was like such an important part of that course. And it's something that has like really stayed with me in like I could like to an extent that I couldn't even describe like the way we learned kind of like to learn and stuff. Sorry, I've just like chosen this moment to clean my glasses. I don't know why. The way we like learned to study and how we learn to think about things is like something that has like completely impacted me like forever. And like in my life now, like what I'm still interested in is like basically all the things that we learned in EMCS. So I continue to like be interested in like reading, and then you kind of like find new ways to learn like through podcasts and stuff like this. But I think like because IADT is small and you're able to have like quite a personal contact with like your lecturers and also with like your like other people in other courses and people in your course, like it really creates this like nice kind of like collaborative environment that helps you to kind of like develop yourself, I think, and like what you're interested in. Like when a lot of my friends who went to like UCC or even Trinity would be like, why are you talking about your lecturers by their first name? Why are you using your lecturer's first name? I was like, they're my friends. But yeah, it's like something that you don't even think about until you hear other people from like bigger colleges talk about this. Yeah, but I also think that like because IADT, I think there's like again, maybe not everyone would agree with me, but from my experience, I think that there's like a lot of freedom to be yourself because it's like such a queer environment. Like I think it's like the queerest college in Ireland, isn't it? Like statistically, we all say that, so let's go with it. Yeah. Yeah, and like people like they kind of like wear whatever they want and stuff like that. Like there's so many like artists. So I think it's a really nice environment where you can really like learn what it's like to go into somewhere and feel kind of like free and comfortable. Which like I think when you leave IADT, I was a bit like, oh yeah, I forgot it's like not like that out here. Yeah, but yeah, basically I would say that like kind of like developing a love for like learning and reading and like critical thinking is something that I learned in my degree that has like totally influenced my life.
Yeah, I personally charge. I just need to get properly. I don't want to talk over anyone. I find the way I kind of meet people and think about people is changed an awful lot because of college. Like, not that I was super ignorant before college, but I think you do learn. I was very involved in the USA when I was in college, and I feel like you're kind of made learn about lots of different kinds of people and how people express themselves or identify as, and I think you kind of that's very hardwired into your head then, and how you kind of think about people and stuff. So when you go into when you go back into the real world, and it's a bit, you kind of feel like you're always educating other people about things like that, and I think that kind of way of thinking never leaves you. But I think what Helen was saying is so right. Like I think people are so much more comfortable being themselves. There's not a lot of like, it's not as much of a, it's very kind of diverse in that regard, but it's not a pressuring kind of diverse. It's like you can be, you can wear head to toe, River Island, or you can wear like the bargain bin and no one cares. Like, whereas I think like in some other art colleges it can be a lot more you know, this is the social thing and we have to do this and do that. And I think that's so I think for me the biggest thing is just to like not judge people by the way they are, what they do, and to kind of be more empathetic with people that you meet and stuff. So I think that's the atmospheres of IADT is something I've taken with me and that I've learned from my own development.
Sam?
Yeah, just kind of like going on top of that, in regards to what Helen you were saying about learning to learn, learning to think. That's something I've really noticed. I haven't had as much experience out of college, having only graduated last year. But in my course now, there's like a really wide range of kind of previous courses and previous experience. And I've found that like having done psychology and like the kind of critical thinking that and like research skills that you're taught, a lot of the like friends and course mates of mine who might have done fashion design or like maybe more like creative and practical elements of fashion are now coming into the course and really struggling with that in terms of like putting together an argument or like developing a research question based on like reading literature and that kind of thing. And then the people like not myself necessarily, but who have that kind of structure in place of like how to learn and how to think are able to learn the creative skills they might have a bit easier than they are able to pick up that structure and that like schema and process around like how to learn and how to think. So yeah, I'd say that's definitely like a big thing that like I've kind of taken from the last 4 years in IADT.
Yeah, like it always sounds really like obnoxious when you say it, but I do think that when you meet people from other courses, sometimes even like colleges with much bigger names, you realize that like how small it was in IDT and how you were able to like, we had so many seminars where we would like really discuss things together. And I think there was like a real honesty to the way we were taught and also the way we discussed that, like, yeah, it just like really influences you to like bring the learning like outside the college. Yeah, it's really nice.
That sounds lovely. That sounds brilliant. I get lost a little bit. I'm just like, because it's so interesting. I just want to just keep going on. But yeah, just kind of speaking of like pathways out of like your learning experiences and stuff. In terms of moving abroad, obviously it's a little bit difficult at the moment with the way the world is. But hopefully soon, these pathways will be a lot more frequent and accessible for all our students. So yeah, what are your kind of experiences moving abroad, and how have you found it in terms of your careers, in your personal lives, and you know, stuff like that?
So us in Copenhagen, I didn't necessarily plan on moving abroad, but I was totally open to it. I kind of just was searching job boards, and I would take it. I was open to any job that was available. And I think, yeah, I mean, first of all, it's really good to be open to moving because Ireland's so small. I mean, there's only so many jobs for all of us creative people, model makers, and specifically, like I ended up in architecture, and there's not so many architecture jobs for model makers in Ireland. Thought I was going to go to the UK. That's pretty close. That seemed reasonable. And then there was just this job posting for Denmark, and I went for it. I had an interview over Skype. They're not terrible. Skype is okay for interviews. And then moving, I had never been here before. I moved by myself. I moved a couple months before Lauren did. So that was scary, but also really fun and exciting. And I think it's a really great experience. If anybody is considering it, like, you should totally go for it.
Yeah, I think kind of what you're saying is that it's a very daunting thing to move country and to also start a new job, and especially if it's like your first job in your industry out of college. But if you see it all as an opportunity and see it all as an experience, that you can look back on, even if it doesn't work out and you end up moving home within 6 months or something. It's something that you've experienced and you've seen if it's something that you would like to continue to do. So being open to the opportunity and open to the if you have the means to move abroad, I think that can be really exciting, because it can also open you up to careers and to career paths you might not have knew were available to you before. Because like say in Ireland, it would be more common for model makers to maybe go into either their own kind of creating their own businesses, or else creating within the film industry. And architectural model making might not be quite as common, or it's already has very established people working in it. So this kind of I'm just saying it can give you another avenue to go down by being in this other place.
Yeah, I think like I would echo that, like that it definitely like opens you up to lots of new things, and so it's kind of always a valuable experience, because it's just like inherently like an experience. Like you have to figure out how to do lots of things. But I also think that like people who like emigration is like such a big part of Irish culture, and it's like really kind of romanticized a lot, but I think people shouldn't have too much FOMO if they're like don't want to do that. Like it's also really hard, it can be really lonely, and like you can be really leaving behind like a lot of friends and feel like a really small person. So I just think people shouldn't have like too much FOMO about it either way.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, no, I was only gonna say because I moved from like Wexford to Dublin, and I was like, I'm a big girl now. Like I moved 2 counties away. And you're like, yeah, I live in Berlin. It's fine.
It's not always fine.
Similar, like on another thing about pathways, we have one student here that's in a master's. So Sam, I'm going to come to you with this. What's your experience of being in like a master's course?
It's definitely a bit different than an undergrad, which is like to be expected, I guess. But I actually feel like I've been prepared quite well for it, particularly with the final year of applied psychology in IDT, where obviously you have your research project, but also a lot of the like smaller projects, you kind of have a bit of leeway in terms of you can like pick like the specific specificities of like what you want to research and what you want to look at, which is basically everything I'm done so far on the course. Very vague brief, and then be like, go and figure it out, go and do your research, go and basically lead yourself, because it's only 2 days a week of classes and the rest is all you're just expected to be reading and researching and all that kind of stuff. So like it's been a decent amount of work, but it's also just been really interesting, and that's the reason I wanted to do it. Kind of I can't remember who said it earlier, but talking about, I think it was you, Helen, saying like about not necessarily having a plan, and that was very much me ending up in this master's. I was researching for my dissertation last year, stumbled across it, and it was kind of just like the next most interesting step for me personally. And yeah, thankfully it was like, as UK masters go, it was quite cheap. Wasn't 30 grand or whatever you were saying, Grace, thankfully. But yeah, it's just like I just kind of over like the 4 years in IDT and all that kind of stuff, just figured out what I wanted to do, and then didn't think it was a thing until I discovered this master's, and it's the only one of its kind in the world as far as I'm aware. And that kind of plays into the whole moving abroad question, which is like, I kind of always planned to move abroad, but me coming here in particular was just, again, following the next most interesting step. And yeah, I've just found it like quite a fulfilling experience so far, albeit mostly from my bedroom and not able to experience London that much. Yeah, so like if anyone is thinking of it, I'd say if it's something that you're genuinely like fascinated by and passionate about and really want to do, and you have the means to do it. Obviously, my case is a singular case, but so far I've really enjoyed it. But then again, you might want to speak to me in 6 months' time when I'm looking for a job. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I just thought it was such an interesting, because normally, because I'm also from psychology as well, as most people know it by this stage. Most people like from our course would be thinking of either like clinical psychology or like research or sport, or if they're in tech, going into like tech firms and things like that. So I thought fashion psychology and applied psychology is so different and so cool. Like, it's just something that I would never have thought of. So like that's just something as well. Like there's probably going to be a course out there that like you might be really into that you don't think is. So just like having that, like just looking around and coming across something by chance, I thought was very cool.
Yeah. And yeah, I like for the first couple of years was thinking about clinical psychology and that kind of route. And like my personal interest in fashion, I just really didn't consider it might be a career path to be going down. And then even when I saw found this master's, my first thought was kind of like, nah, but that's a bit silly, isn't it? Just like focusing entirely on fashion, that's a bit frivolous. But then actually, like within that, in the course itself, you're kind of learning about the aspects of it that aren't frivolous and that actually hold a lot of meaning and significance to people. So yeah, if anyone's thinking about that kind of thing, I mean, go for it.
Excellent.
Perfect. Yeah. So just on the topic, I might actually pass this next question on to Rachel, since you've personal experience with the SU.
Oh, sorry, it's the SU question. Yes, sorry. We've got quite a few SU members on this call. Like, we actually have one from each of the 3 sabbatical positions, which I think is very cool. So, Helen was president, Grace was education, and Neil was a part-time and a full-time officer of LGBTQ plus rights and welfare and equality. So, how did all 3 of you guys like have the experience of like running in the SU? Like, what did it give to your life? Like, and why did you run? And also it's 3 different like job perspectives as well.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I can totally. Cool, I'll start off. So as I said a little while ago, my whole idea of what my future was going to be kind of just imploded quite near like like January of my 4th year. And at that same sort of time, that was when all of the SU posters went up everywhere, and they were like, run for SU and this sort of thing. So I had been class rep every year of my course and loved every moment of it. I'm huge into like volunteering and like passing on what you know, that sort of like way of being, methodology. And I don't have critical thinking like you, Helen and Sam, because so that's sort of like, if you've got experience, like which I did, 4 years of being a class rep, like how can like you pass that on, that sort of thing. And I sat down and like really thought about, like what did staying in Dublin for an extra year mean? Did I want to? Could I afford it? That sort of thing, because it is a full-time paid position as well. So the idea was to run. I ran uncontested, so I won. So that was part of the decision made for me, but it wasn't something that I thought about until 4th year. But I think like sometimes people can have a really like smooth progression from going to societies, chairing a society, being a part-time officer, and then being a full-time officer, whereas I was really off the radar for all of that until I sat down with the SE officer at the time and was like, what is this thing? What do you do in this office? Why are you here? That was my sort of why I ran, and I loved it. And I am trying to cling on to IADT as much as possible by coming back. See, it's me.
I don't mind going.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, so I I had for part-time officers. So I had been involved with the USA, which is the LGBT Society, if anybody doesn't know. Yeah, so my second year, I was just like a member. And then my third year, myself and Luke were on the committee.
That committee together, I was like 20 and like, I don't want to answer the phone.
But yeah, no, I loved it. I took so much from it. It was really important for me. But I feel like the next year I had the thought of, I'd love to run for president of the society. Because I still really wanted to be involved. And then as I thought about it, I was kind of putting a bit of a manifesto together. So I was like, I'm actually not that social. Like I'm just not. I think the society needs to be social. I think the social aspect is I think it's vitally important. I think it provides that space for people. Like I go on nights out, I'm home by like 11:30. You know, I'm just not. I'm too sensible. So I kind of like, you know what, that's not for me. And I think, you know, people have done it phenomenal, but I just was like, I don't actually think I'm going to be that comfortable in that position. And I definitely, through my time in societies and other volunteer work I've been doing on the side, I'm particularly involved in training and like even policy aspects of it. So I was like, actually, there is a position, it's the LGBTQ plus rights officer on the student union. I was like, I could run for that instead, but still be part of the society. So for me, that was the decision that I made. It was to run for SU instead of running for the society itself. So I ran and I got elected. I loved my year. I absolutely loved it. I feel like we did things. We did real practical things that I was really proud of. And even just like we did like the coffee and chat space, which was just like literally a weekly space for people to come along and have, you know, coffee. And it was just, that meant so much to me. And the amount of people who afterwards told me that space meant so much to them. I was like, it was literally just us putting tea and coffee out, you know, for an hour once a week. So from my experience within that part-time role and seeing real change happen, even though I feel like it's massive change, but it's probably the littlest things, you know. From that, I wanted to run for welfare then. For me, I wanted, I suppose, welfare in a sense because it dealt with, you know, obviously equality issues, specifically LGBT rights, but also mental health, mental health services, also around finance as well, which I think is a massive barrier to students. To be honest with you, as welfare officer, the biggest thing that I dealt with on a daily basis was finance. Was people coming in either, you know, not having funding, asking for money. There's a whole conversation around that. But yeah, so I did run for welfare and equality. I enjoyed it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I did the part-time officer. I think there's a lot of meetings. You're sitting in meetings for hours on end. You want to change the world and you want to kind of get in there and go, oh, I have to sit through these meetings and I have to do all this paperwork, and there's so much more to it. And I think maybe I didn't realize you don't make as big of an impact, but you make those small changes, which are important. But I think I went in kind of fighting, I want to do this. I think it's definitely difficult. And then also because it's only a year long, you kind of go, oh, you're like, it's over now. Like, obviously I could have ran for a second year and I chose not to. But I feel like sometimes you need that extra year just to kind of get things done. So as much as I loved it, and I think what I really took from it was the personal experience working with students. Because, you know, being a student is really hard. And I know people have fun, have crack, and it's all like mental health services, like the amount of people who came in specifically talking about consent issues and sexual assault, like I don't think as a student union officer we're qualified to be that person. You know, I really don't. You can have training sessions, which training sessions you like, but actually it's really difficult. And I really feel for student union officers in that position because you're taking on a lot from people. And I think it's important that you're that first point of contact, but actually I think the student union officers need to be supported more. And yeah, but at the same time, I loved working with students on an individual basis and seeing them progress and do really well, kind of, you know, be struggling and then go off and get their degree or, you know, pass that year. So I loved my time. I think I would highly encourage anyone to run, but make sure you know why you're running and your kind of reasons for it. But also you just get to meet incredible people. And also I think the relationship between staff and students is a really interesting one. I think you need to have the staff on side. Most staff are sound, you know, they're there for the right reasons. So I'm sure some aren't, but at the same time, I think that But I think as well, you're elected there to represent students and to really fight for student voice and to advocate for students. And I think just getting the student voice at the table is the most important thing in a college.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that you said how your favourite time was working with students, like that sort of like one-to-one casework kind of thing. Whereas I found, because every year for each education president, welfare is completely different as well. I found that what I thought the role was going to be casework. It was going to be one-to-one, helping students get deadlines in on time, get extensions, deferrals, that sort of thing. I was ready. I was like, I've got my paperwork, my emails ready to go. I know how to do this. But it turned out that most of my time was spent in meetings, like you said. But I found that I really enjoyed the meetings, and that the casework that I was doing was through emails. No one ever walked into the office really to talk to the education officer, because they just sent an email. They were like, you need to email your lecturer. And it just kind of, went through emails, that sort of way, because it's not always quite such an urgent thing for the education officer. There definitely are cases where it is, but more day-to-day stuff, it wouldn't be a knock on the door, I need to see you, Grace. It'd be more knock on the door, I need to see you, Neve, is kind of what I found being in the education role. So I found the changes that I was helping with, or any sort of change that I had any impact on, was by sitting on all of those committees and repeatedly saying, don't forget, students are students. They're they need our support, they need this and they need that, and also we can use them as a resource because they have their own brains and they're so clever, and why aren't we bringing the students in here, that kind of thing. So I didn't think I would be pushing so much in front of committees of well-knowledged, lecturers and staff members that had been there for years. They actually know, as a student union member who graduated a month ago, this thing really matters. But having the conviction in yourself to know that that thing does really matter, and that's why you're there, is because 30 to 40 class reps have told you that their students have this issue and you have to bring it to the meeting. And that was really empowering, knowing that it was coming through a really important system, which is the class reps. I love the class reps, my classmates.
Yeah, I think I appreciate your honesty, Neve, in saying that it's tough. It is super. Yeah, I thought that it was very difficult. But it's obviously super fascinating. I think it's really interesting you learn a lot about how institutions work. You learn about a lot about bureaucracy, kind of governance, how things work. Retrospectively, I often think about oh, I should have done that differently, or I would have done that differently now, which is really interesting. It's a very interesting case study, and yeah, all that kind of stuff, which obviously is interesting forever. And you meet loads of really, really cool people, and then it is really nice when you get to see some things, real things happen. Like Neve was the LGBT officer when I was the president, and Neve was definitely the best officer in the whole union, despite being a part-time officer.
Definitely not.
It'd be happy to know, Neve, that the LGBT in Chast are still a thing. So you did make a change.
That actually genuinely makes me so happy.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think that was really interesting to get all three. It's so nice and incredibly convenient that we have all three sabbatical positions just handy filled right here.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of floating on the topic of the IADT experience, as it were. Obviously we've kind of touched on how, unique and certain aspects of the college. So I'm just gonna kind of amalgamate the last two questions here, just because I have an eye on the time. Although I'd love to sit here and listen for hours to you all year, so lovely. But yeah, so in terms of the uniqueness of IADT, how do you think, in your experience, what was unique about IADT, and then hand in hand with kind of the networking aspect of it, how important is networking, and how does it play to your life in IADT?
Am I allowed to talk? Can I speak?
Of course.
Of course.
I feel like I should have a talk stick or something. Well, I think the biggest legacy for me is and this kind of ties into both legacy and kind of how unique it is. I think everyone that goes to IADT goes there because they want to study what they've chosen, and they really want to either study whatever they do or have a career in whatever they've chosen. But specifically, more so, I think with the arts side of things, especially. But I always felt that everyone in IDT was very hard working and was really trying to focus on what they were doing. And I think sometimes you go to other colleges, which I won't name names, and they can be very sort of I'm going there because I want to look cool, or I want to be this, or it's like, this is my life, this is whereas I think it's a lot more, we're there to do the work, we're there because we want to be a photographer, we're there because we want to be a fine artist, we want to do, and I think that kind of slightly more equalist aspect makes it much easier for you to actually go and make friends with different courses and within your classes, and to have a kind of a respect for one another and what you do, and therefore it's much easier to have kind of constructive criticism and be able to sort of like trust people with your work and that sort of thing. And I think that is really good, because I've found since I've left college, like I do a lot of freelance work as well as my day job, and I find that like I've now, because as I went through college, I kind of went from being a photographer to more kind of multimedia, and I still love both, but like I do a lot more video stuff now and things like that. And photography is quite a insular sort of more kind of practice. Like everyone's very good within the class, and we all are very good at critiquing each other, and we're very supportive. But you're much more like, this is my project and I'm doing it, and that's that. Whereas something like the film course is much more collaborative. So you're all, you do sound, you're doing it, and they're taught to work as a team. And when I left college, I started doing more video work, which I kind of taught myself. We do a bit of video photography, but you very much have to kind of figure it out and make a mistake. And I found that because I had such good friends I've made specifically in film, but then also kind of in VisCom and places like that as well, I was able to ask for help if I needed advice for something. I'd be like, oh, how do I do a production pack? What is this shot list all right? Am I just making it up as I go along? Things like that. Or if I needed someone to be a camera person, or if I needed help with makeup, stuff like that. Like, I think DSS is so much there that you can actually apply to different areas. So it was only when I left college that I realized, well, I made such nice friends in so many different courses, and everyone's so willing to give you their time and advice and not be like hoarding stuff, that it really pays off then when you want to go and expand your practice as you leave. So to me, I think that's what's so nice about IDT, was that sort of everyone, even like this chat here, everyone's so like patient and is like very much like willing to explain how they did things and what their experiences were like. And I think that's something that you just don't get in other places. That sort of like willing to kind of learn from each other and help and stuff. And so that's like that's what I think is great college for me. I think especially just that kind of honesty and sort of and that kind of friendship. Sorry.
Yeah, would anyone else like to speak on their experience? Yeah, great.
I'd love to hop in on that. So I absolutely love the idea of networking and, buy a coffee, give a coffee. I think especially like the creative courses, you're going to get so much more out of a chat with someone. Like, there's no harm in asking. If they say no, they say no. It's not because, they don't like you, they think you smell or anything. They just, they could be busy. They could have like 5 projects on themselves and their day job. But sometimes, you could find 2 or 3 people that you think are going to have a really valuable conversation with. And it could be, for me, it could be art related, it could be museum related, or it could be to do with marketing. So types of things that you think you're interested in, find some people and just ask, do you have 15 minutes to talk over Zoom? We'll both boil the kettle either side and we'll have a virtual coffee and just talk about like your career. Or, like, if you message someone and say, I think you're really interesting, I absolutely loved your vibe on Instagram, Facebook, the webinar that you did, like whatever platform you saw them on, just say, like, be genuine. I thought you were great and I really want to know more about you. And like, it's quite hard for someone to turn around and be like, oh, well, I'm not flattered by that, so of course I'm going to say no, So yeah, like it's really scary, especially the first few times you ask people for one-to-ones. I mean, a lot of the creative courses, you have a lot of one-to-ones, but it's really scary asking a professional person in like a workplace for a one-to-one. But definitely there's so many benefits to it to do it.
Great.
Yeah.
If anybody else just wants to jump in, yeah, Helen?
No, so sorry. Like, I'm just going to repeat something I've said like 10 times during the whole webinar, which is just like, IDT is so small, we can all hang out. Woo.
Yeah, that's what I would add too, is that the small numbers are really great. And when you start talking to people that I mean, even from secondary school, who have gone to other colleges, they make like a couple of friends within their course and then they don't know anybody else. And they're in all these giant lecture halls where the lecturer doesn't even know their name. They don't, the first name basis thing with the lecturers, like all of that is really nice. And while you're in it, you might not realize it, but it's a genuinely lovely thing about going to IADT.
Yeah, I still find that like you have lecturers and people that like I felt like you really earned their trust, and by the time you got to fourth year it was very much they knew what the personality was like. You present them a work and they'd be like, oh, this is like that thing you did then, or that like, you know, if you came like 1-2 times in fourth year I didn't present my best, and they're like, we know you can do better. Whereas I think if you were going to like, you know, UCD and you've got 500 things to correct or something, I don't know, you're just going to be like, it'll be very systematic, like, and good. Whereas there's much more of a more nurturing environment with lecturers like there in IADT.
And I know, like, we're talking about this and it's like, oh, we've all left IADT and this was a great community we had, but I have found, like, even within Denmark, because I didn't have that job for a while, I did some freelance work, and I found all of that through friends of friends who are also creatives. And I think the experience of IADT makes you more comfortable with asking a friend if their friend has work going or if they know anyone, and it still lives on in other areas. And that yes, we're talking about like IADT and how great the community is, but that is helpful to you when you leave also. It's still a great thing, so fourth years don't have to be too sad they're leaving. It's something you can carry with you after.
Also on that note, like the couple of things that you were doing in between working at one place and the next, it was not advertised, and then the position you're in now was never advertised.
It's all about just sending an email and just putting yourself out there. None of my jobs have been advertised positions, and I'm working full time now. It's about just sending unsolicited applications and
talking to who you know, and
seeing what you get.
Great. I might just, because we're just coming up to the end, I'm just going to call Rebecca Roper in, who's kind of like our head of like final year matters moving on, just to say hi and bye. And before Rebecca kind of closes out the session, I was just wondering if I could go around and ask everyone for like a one-word sum up of like your 4 years in IADT. So I might start with like Luke, because you're the first person next to me on my screen.
Hey.
Yeah.
Very life-changing and life-affirming, and very self-developed. I can't talk. I didn't study English.
Neve?
Oh no. Oh, there's so much. Like, it's when I think back of IGT, I just have the loveliest memories. It's one of the best decisions I ever did was to go back. And I just have the fondest memories.
Okay. Lauren, and then Blue Sky.
Oh, of one word, I don't know. It was life-changing in a way. I learned so much, not only from my course and the knowledge of model making, but also just me as a person and friends. So yeah, knowledge or life-changing, I'm not sure which one.
Yeah, more of the same. I mean, I've made some really great lifelong friends while in college, and obviously learned some relevant skills and ended up with a nice job out of it. But one word, I'm not sure. That's where my anxiety is revealed.
That was perfect. Sam?
Again, I feel like it's hard to put 4 years in one word. But I'd say maybe like openness. I feel IADT itself is just a really open space in regards to like following your interests, being yourself, open in terms of your, like everyone's talked about, like your access and opportunity to meet other people. And then I'd also say openness is kind of a quality you gain by being there, in that like it kind of transfers onto you through the environment you're in. and you can kind of take that forward as a skill in life in terms of your openness to people, your openness to ideas. Yeah, I'm just going to say openness.
Perfect. Helen?
Yeah, I would say like transformative. That's my word.
And last but not least, Grace.
That, like, everyone said it, but I will sing it. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Can I answer that one too? I've got an answer as well, and my answer would be on behalf of all the lecturers, magical students. Absolutely magical students. You guys, I cannot thank you enough for tonight. I appreciate your candor and your time and your the amazing stories you have that you're unraveling in your lives, and they're wonderful. So thank you so much. I want to give a huge shout out to Caroline Healy, who is our ICT guru, the woman who makes it all possible. I begged her to come on screen tonight, but she won't. She's just too, yeah, it's not that she's shy. She's like, oh, I just couldn't be bought. No, she is shy, of course. You know, what a great group. I do have a couple questions here. First one is, I know we're running out, we're out of time, but Helen mentioned a podcast, and what are you drinking? That's what
Who asked this? Like, but yes, my podcast. It's called Casement's Leftovers. You can get it on all podcast platforms, and it's about like Irish culture from a socialist perspective. And I'm drinking a glass of water from a jar.
Yes, instead of whiskey in a jar, it's not poaching. I think that's what they were thinking. And Grace, Grace, you mentioned, did they do poaching in Berlin?
I don't know. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know that.
Oh, okay. Grace, you mentioned that you're going, you've got a design business coming up. So do you want to give us any deets on that?
Yep, we're launching in time for June for Pride Month. It's called Poppin' Violets. It's LGBT and animals, and there will be lots and lots of social media, and I'm sure an IADT discount or two, something fun like that.
Do us a favor and send us those links, and we can put up, you know, that stuff onto our Facebook pages, etc. Does anyone else have anything we'd like to plug? Is Ahead doing any kind of fundraising stuff? What's going on?
Not fundraising, but if you have a disability, whether that be mental health, dyslexia, autism, whatever it is, and you're looking for work, sign up to our database. Go on to ahead.ie. We have loads of jobs coming up. So if you're looking for work and you have a disability, please do hop onto our website.
That's brilliant. Anybody else want to flag anything, or, you know, can we support you in any other way as you move in the world?
I feel like Luke should say.
I think Luke's good.
I do nothing. I do nothing all day long.
Luke is a phenomenal pop star.
That's my side hustle. Yeah, I do. Yes. No.
Okay, give it. Give us your side hustle.
You follow me at @puregrand on Instagram. There's lots of fabulous things you can check. I have music if you want to listen to some pop music. That's there.
Really? Oh, I love pop music. I do playlists for all my classes. We have a break. We get pop in the. Yeah. What's it called again?
It's Pure Grand. It's all one word. I did the Sonic Art module in second year. You know, they do your modules, and I learned how to produce on that, and I've taken that and done that. So the electives are useful. Yeah.
They are useful. We did that with Jeffrey, was it?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome individual. Well, look, guys, thank you so much. My love to you always, and we'll see you again.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
We'll be launching our website real soon. That's going to be happening. So stay in touch. And everyone, best of luck with all of your endeavors towards the end of the year. We're here for you. We are going to be doing like interviews with the current fourth years. So watch out on our Facebook and Instagram pages and such for when you can, how to get involved. Thanks again. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah.